If I said to you Microsoft was going to catch Sony and PlayStation probably within the next year, what would your reaction be? Would your reaction be, oh, well, they'll never outsell the amount of plastic PlayStations with Xboxes? I'm going to guess that that's what a lot of people would say. I've been talking about Microsoft and their multiple stream setup for a while now. So consoles are important to them, but you know what? So is streaming through the cloud, so is gaming on mobile, so is gaming on PC. It's like there's not really one thing that's more important than the other. It's just everybody being able to kind of game. And I think that that is something that so many people realistically kind of look at. And when we look at this situation and we go, okay, what does this mean? Well, it means that Microsoft was right. You know, if we look at what Sony's doing, right? Another person just left. The person from Housemarque Games just left that studio after 14 years. We're seeing this more and more often with PlayStation. Apparently, there's a butting of heads going on there. There's a big reorganization there. PlayStation not doing what people want them to do. They have an old school mentality with, hey, let's sell the most amount of plastic, and then 6 years we got to start all over again, right? Microsoft has it kind of a different way, right? So you don't have to really worry about cutting things off when you go to a new generation, because people will be able to play the new stuff on, and you'll still be able to get a high amount of players through PC and through cloud and through things like that, to pick up the slack until people pick up the new console. So like, while console is a pillar, you don't totally lose everything when you hit the reset button. Now, interestingly enough, like I said, the director of Housemarque's PS5 exclusive Returnal has just left after 14 years. Naughty Dog's having issues. Everybody's having issues at PlayStation. Jim Ryan gone, however you want to look at that. And Microsoft has, just released Modern Warfare 3. Yeah, I know people are going to go, oh, that's an Activision game. Yeah, well, guess who owns Activision? But anyway, according to this, Xbox is on track to knock PlayStation down to third place for the first time in history. With combined Activision and Xbox revenues, PlayStation may be looking at a third place spot behind Microsoft for the first time. Microsoft and Sony have long been intense rivals in a high-end console gaming market, with Sony typically out in the forefront by almost every metric. Despite Xbox's console market shares and the woes behind that, Microsoft found a ton of success by expanding across to PC and doubling down on services. And now that Microsoft has acquired Activision Blizzard, the makers of Call of Duty, Microsoft is on course to leapfrog Sony's gaming revenue for the first time in history. Now, Tencent remains the top dog, owing to investments in companies like Epic Games, domination in China, mobile titles, and ownership of League of Legends. Microsoft has long touted its goal to be a top dog in the gaming industry, while also starting and stating that its eyes are on players like Apple and Tencent rather than PlayStation and Nintendo in order to achieve these goals. Indeed, a top player in the industry is Tencent. The Chinese tech giant has massive investments in companies across the globe. Of course, Microsoft owning its masses to kind of change things. They want to change things about. So now, new analyst firm Newzoo recently released a detailed report into the games industry for H123, revealing a familiar top 10 lineup. Newzoo projects the games industry will generate $184 billion in revenue for the entirety of the 2023 fiscal year, and they forecast that it'll grow to $205.7 billion by 2026. The lion's share of gaming software revenue remains in mobile, although PC and console did see growth, while browser-based games continue their free-fall decline. Mobile also saw a small decline, but remains 49% of the overall pie, with console and PC sharing 29% and 21% respectively. When you start to look at the breakdown, however, things get more interesting, as Tencent is miles ahead of the pack with a dominating position in service games across all platforms. Their League of Legends Sports Worlds event for 23 was the most watched, etc., etc. Speaking of which, Activision Blizzard is very much part of Microsoft, owing to a likely lengthy acquisition process for almost 2 years. The transaction only became finalized in October. precluding Activision's reverse revenue from being counted as part of H1 2023. But Newzoo took the liberty of projecting what the chart might look like to those software service revenues been combined, and I'm going to link this so you guys can check it out. 10.4 billion. It's pretty crazy to think about it. In a world where Microsoft and Activision's revenues were combined for the first time in gaming history, Microsoft will supplant Sony PlayStation as the second biggest gaming company. It's really emblematic of Microsoft's desire at this point to emulate Tencent in this space, producing service games that exist across all platforms as opposed to a more traditional closed console ecosystem approach that works pretty well for Sony and Nintendo. Microsoft has also told investors to expect a near 50% increase in gaming revenue for its next quarter, owing the combined revenue streams. Other developments could further upset the balance. Apple has been designated a gatekeeper tech firm, which means that they will be forced to open up their platform to third-party apps and sideloading of apps from 2024. Microsoft, however, has been incredibly transparent about its desire to build an Xbox mobile game store, and is deciding and dedicating a significant amount of resources to the end. If Microsoft can deprive Apple of revenues from Call of Duty, mobile, Minecraft, and other major third-party games by offering a better revenue split, it could help further Microsoft's deal to kind of create the Steam of mobile gaming. According to this, Jez Gordon thinks it's a long shot, as Samsung already offers something similar with its Galaxy Store, but we'll see how it goes. They also noted that the top 10 companies generated 50% of all gaming software and service revenue. Despite that concentration, the diversity business model is quite stark, as PlayStation and Nintendo focus entirely on their own hardware ecosystems, with PC and mobile a afterthought. While Tencent, the top player, doesn't make hardware at all. The chart does include hardware revenues, which would partially explain the oversized gap between Tencent and PlayStation, and Microsoft is kind of modeling itself here after Tencent to that end, while also supporting a hardware ecosystem that perhaps Microsoft makes them the most diversified now, with a strong offering in mobile, with Activision and entrenched position in Western console markets, and increased visibility on PC, owing to services like Game Pass. So the challenges for Microsoft are quite abundant. Series X and S hardware sales continue to dip year over year and lag behind even that of Xbox One, despite how malign that console's launch was. Microsoft's strategy of putting its games day and date on the PC is undoubtedly having an impact on the desirability of its own console hardware, and he argues that a lack of innovation and investment in console features has contributed to a reduction of excitement and interest in the platform. Sony has plowed ahead with experimental accessories like PSVR, PlayStation Portal, streaming handheld, and pioneering haptics in its controllers, and the Xbox Series X and S, by comparison, actually shed features from its predecessors, losing Kinect, SPDIF audio, optical, HDMI pass-through by comparison, and leaked documents also suggest that Microsoft has zero interest in building its own Xbox handheld, despite the fact that there's demand for Steam Deck and Asus ROG Ally. I'll just point out, though, real quick, like I agree with Jez overall with some of this. I think clearly putting your games day and date on PC has had an effect, but I don't think there's this huge demand for Steam Deck and Asus ROG Ally. I think if you combine both the sales from it's under 10 million or something, like that's not a big deal to me. I don't think that would change much if Microsoft was like suddenly come out with a handheld. I don't think that's going to change their fortunes with the hardware, but they do have a slate of upcoming games that should help move the needle. Even Starfield, despite a huge marketing campaign, seems to have failed to help Xbox Series X and S for the long-term future. Now, the future is undoubtedly secure either way. Its unearned underdog, quote-unquote, status is now surely shed, and people are kind of looking at them in a different way. So, we'll see what happens. For me personally, I think that Microsoft still has a ways to go, but at the same time, I think that being able to beat and compete against Sony with this type of situation, I think, is very smart, and being able to beat them for the first time ever, I think, would be huge in this area. And I keep telling people that gaming is about more, especially even in the console space, right? It's more than just, what do we have here? Did Xbox do this, or did PlayStation do this? How many did this one sell versus how many did this one sell? Like, there's a lot more to it than what people actually kind of think. And so I think that's where this comes into play. This isn't 2006 anymore, and so things definitely have changed. So With that being said, I appreciate each and every one of you. If you guys are watching the channel, please leave a like on the video and possibly consider subscribing. What do you think about that? Xbox would be ahead of the other players in terms of revenue, profit, all these type of things. Sony would obviously still be, more so in the sold more plastic than used space, but is that even a matter at this point? I think all these companies need multiple revenue streams to stay relevant and to stay in the industry. So let me know what you think. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.